Yeah, you better watch this channel. You better watch all the videos. You better watch every single one right here at Good Mike Work Commentaries. Do it. Do it now.
What's up, nerds? How's it going? Welcome back. This is your WWE Monday Night Raw review for September 27th, 2021. And of course, like always, I'm going to ask for your grades in the chat in terms of what you thought of tonight's Raw, but I'm going to tell you what I thought. I thought it was a great show. We had some really good wrestling on this show with still a lot of typical Raw stuff and a lot of things we're going to critique here. However, in terms of just what we got in the ring, I thought there was some really solid wrestling. I kind of liked some of the arcs they did with the Big E Lashley stuff, and a couple of matches in the ring like AJ and Riddle and Sheamus and Priest were just solid as hell and great performances, and everybody was just out there kicking the shit out of each other all night, and I thought that was really good. So I thought it made for a better than normal Monday Night Raw. Very, very pleased with the outcome of the main event. Thought for sure the minute the WWE title match between Lashley and Big E was made that we would have some sort of a Goldberg interference that would set up the Crown Jewel match. And even though we did get Goldberg in video form tonight via satellite, he wasn't there in person. And we got, for the most part, a clean finish in the main event, even though there was a lot of extracurricular activity involving Big E and Lashley. And one of the biggest stories of the night, and I think the happiest news of the night, is that WWE has just realized, apparently randomly, that when they split up the Hurt Business, that was fucking dumb. And now it looks like they're back together. So Cedric and Shelton showed up in the opener, as we'll talk about, with Hurt Business shirts. Looks like they're back together when you get MVP back in the fold. That should be really fun. And looks like their next immediate obstacle is going to be Goldberg. And that match, I guess, will be made pretty soon, probably next week or whatnot. But overall, I thought WWE at least gave us some solid wrestling tonight, and they gave us 3 championship matches, WWE title, US title, and Raw women's title, all on the line tonight. So overall, I don't have too many bad things to say about the show, and I'm going to give it at least a B. So what do y'all think? B's, C's, A's, whatever. You're giving an A from Arthur Jones, A from Nigel, B, C minus, B minus. Sounds all about fair. 5 out of 10 up there, I see. So not too horrible. Yeah, I've been eyeballing that score. Dallas whooping the Eagles 41-14. Yikes. Well, that's good. Maybe that'll help WWE's rating tonight if it's been largely one-sided over there, although that usually doesn't matter. I guess the only people that are probably going to tune away are going to be Eagles fans. I guess if you are a fan of the team doing the squashing, you're not going to change the channel. You're going to keep watching, even though the outcome, you already know it. It's fun to watch your team out there kicking some ass. So we'll see how WWE fares tomorrow in the ratings with this game, which is a pretty big one. They're in the same conference, I believe, right? Dallas and Philly. So we'll see what they pull in for this. Overall, it was a pretty good, like I said, night of wrestling. We'll go through it here bit by bit. My one critique I will say of the show is that even though I thought a lot of what we saw was good here, it was extremely predictable. Like, you knew when they made that match between Lashley and Big E, and they went through the trouble of announcing that it's going to open Raw. It's what they've been doing lately. It's like one of their new formulas. They'll open with a match, then there will be a DQ, and then they'll run it back in the main event, or in some cases, just restart the match right after. But I figured it would probably be a deal where the match would take place in the opener and in the main event. That's exactly what happened. I thought they might switch it up and do it 6-man, New Day, Hurt Business, but they kept the title on the line, put those guys in a cage, made us get a real winner, and we got one. And that is pleasantly surprising. You know, I thought for sure it would be a Goldberg type of thing where he'd come and rip the door off and kill Lashley or something, and allowing Big E to escape the cage, but we didn't get any of that. So that was a positive positive sign in my view, and it tells me that at least for the short term, WWE is going to go with Big E. It wasn't just, yes, they hot-shotted his victory, but they're not going to immediately take the belt away from him like I kind of suspected they might. So at least for now, his championship run is safe, I would guess, until at least Survivor Series time. They might want to move the belt over if they have some big matchup plan, but we don't even know what the plans are for Survivor Series. So in terms of the future of Big E's world title win, I think at least right now he's kind of safe, and that's good because he's very deserving, and so far his performances as champion have been great. He's been out there laying it all on the line, and he really stood toe-to-toe with Lashley in both matches tonight, and that impressed me. So, so far so good with Big E's run as far as I'm concerned. For those of you here, if you don't mind, doing the usual, tapping that little thumbs up button, I would definitely appreciate it. I want to say hi to Chris Mendenhall, who is dropping in with a $5 super chat. Raw is getting better, but it has to be because of recent success of AEW. Who do you think will face Big E? Someone from SmackDown after the draft. Good question. It looks like now it's going to be Drew McIntyre, as we saw him come out at the end of the show tonight and kind of lay down, I guess, his claim that he wants to be the next one in line. I don't know if that's going to be our crown jewel match or if that's going to be whatever the hell the October pay-per-view is, or if they could do something like AEW does, and this is something they could set up for a good Raw match. I mean, a lot of times AEW will set up a title match and they'll pre-advertise it and they'll let everybody know it's going to be in 2 weeks on Dynamite. WWE should try that. Instead of tweeting out a big championship match Sunday before the show, build it. Announce it 2 weeks in advance. Big title match, main eventing Monday Night Raw in 2 weeks. Big E versus Drew McIntyre. And that's just going to be the main event, and just fucking do it like they do over there and see what happens. So I think immediately it'll be Drew. I wouldn't mind them just knocking that shit out on Raw and not doing a pay-per-view, because I think a lot of fans are going to roll their eyes at this because they feel Drew haven't had enough shots and opportunities. But then again, these are two guys that could be moving starting Friday, which is night one of the draft. So I don't know. But in terms of Raw getting better, I think it is, the momentum of AEW. I think it's the strong numbers they've been showing and even besting WWE in that key demo that seems to be so important. And their ratings have been somewhat comparable. I mean, WWE's not even doubling them. WWE's doing 1.8s, AEW is doing 1.2s. It's not that far off. So when you combine that with football starting, I think that's what motivated WWE to do better here, at least in the short term, the last couple of weeks, because if you combine the shitty shows that we've already been getting and those terrible ratings, and now you're adding Monday Night Football going head to head, you are definitely going to go down. So if you want to, maintain any sort of decent numbers, you got to throw some good shit at us. They have done that. And I think that first week when Big E won the title, the rating was a little lower than they wanted. They took a bump up last week. We'll see how they do tomorrow. But, like I mentioned in the last couple of podcasts, I've said we're going to benefit from this. I'm so glad that AEW is building this momentum at the same time that football season is starting, because it's going to force WWE to do better. And last week, going up against that big Grand Slam set of shows that AEW had, WWE came through with a decent Raw and a decent SmackDown, and here they came through again tonight. So as fans, this is why competition can be great, because without AEW, WWE would probably just be feeding us the same old nonsense. So we are lucky to be in this position that, somebody's taking a lighter and putting it right up to the butthole of WWE and getting them moving off their ass and actually trying a little bit here. And when they do, they can actually deliver somewhat decent shows. So tonight was a good example of that, and maybe this will also hopefully help them plan things out a little bit further, maybe try to, get some plans in place and storylines and see where they want these things to go, or ideally where they want to go, and just try to get some sort of a fucking direction, because they're still very, very much all over the place. And we got a draft coming up on Friday, which in the end, I've been preaching for the last 10 years on this channel, the drafts don't mean dick. I very, very rarely get excited about the drafts. I don't think they mean anything, because they don't mean anything now. You got guys bouncing from show to show, brand to brand. It doesn't even matter what brand you're on, really. You can just be anywhere, and they make up some bullshit excuse for it. And on top of that, it's not the talent being on certain shows that's the problem. It's nice to shake things up every now and then, but sometimes I think that WWE uses this as a solution, or they think, things will be better after the draft. No, you're just taking the same pieces and just moving them around, but still, producing the same shit. It doesn't really matter where they are, red or blue brand. It doesn't matter. So not usually very optimistic about the draft. I'm usually kind of an asshole about the draft, but I think this one could do a significant job of, kind of spicing up both rosters now that the fans are back, and WWE clearly is trying a little bit harder, and it might be a good opportunity to make some big changes. You might want to move the belts again. You might want to put Roman on Raw, move Big E back to SmackDown. I don't know. I don't even think WWE knows. The draft starts Friday, and I bet you they haven't made one fucking decision as it relates to that. But I think there are some people like McIntyre, actually, who we saw tonight that I think would benefit from jumping over to SmackDown. Somebody like Cesaro I'd like to see go to Raw. Owens, I'd like to see him go to AEW. Maybe a couple of call-ups from NXT, as well. We'll see. But for the most part, I don't think the draft is going to matter too much at the end of the day, but we'll be talking about it this weekend. And 1 week from tonight, we'll be talking about night 2 of the WWE draft. For most of you who already knew this, I was not home yesterday to watch Extreme Rules, a very rare pay-per-view miss for me. I had a family engagement I couldn't get out of, and I didn't really try very hard to get out of it because it looked like it was kind of a throwaway pay-per-view. It was called Extreme Rules. There was 6 matches on the card. They added a 7th, I think, last minute, and only one of them had an actual Extreme Rules stipulation, and that was the main event with Roman Reigns and Finn Balor. So I figured if there was ever a show to miss, this was probably the one, although we did get a couple of surprises. In terms of my predictions, I went perfect except for one match wrong. It was the one I figured I could probably get wrong, and that was Charlotte and Alexa. I just figured I had to have one title change on this show since WWE feels like they're trying to really spice things up. I'm like, let's give Alexa the belt now, take it back off of her, and that can be the beginning of the transition back into old Alexa Bliss. I thought that would happen. It did not. Charlotte beat her and then tore the shit out of Lily, and then reports service today that Alexa Bliss has possibly been written off TV and could be gone for a while, maybe coming back as the old Alexa Bliss when she returns. But I kind of thought it would be a longer process than that she would actually get the better of Charlotte first before Charlotte kind of got the belt back, and that's what would transition Alexa into whatever. But don't know the story with her personally or what's going on behind the scenes or why she's being taken off. But apparently last night we might have seen that. So didn't get that match correct, but everything else I pretty much did. Bianca Belair and Becky, of course, ended in a DQ when Sasha Banks showed up and attacked both of them. So I guess I was kind of right about that one because Becky did leave with the championship. And the very hokey ending that a lot of people were kind of complaining about with Finn Balor on the top rope as the Demon. And, they kind of did something different when he was like kind of hulking up or demoning out or whatever. And they kind of had the music going on, and then he's standing up on the top turnbuckle, and the rope just breaks, and it kind of like breaks him out of his demon spell, and he gets speared, I believe, by Roman and then pinned, right? And that was kind of the end of it. But, the commentators were kind of alluding to this as some sort of a divine intervention type of supernatural maybe type of thing, that the rope broke. This is the same rope that, can hold a lot more weight than Finn Balor's 180 pounds. Now, we know this guy's got balls of lead, so I suppose that maybe it's just the weight of his, just giant machine balls that the rope broke. I don't know. Maybe it was a wizard. Not sure, but the rope broke, and that allowed Roman Reigns to escape once again with his title, and I guess it was their way of, I don't know, somewhat protecting the Demon, although it was kind of a silly-ass finish and very typical WWE stuff. Maybe you can chalk it up to, they're trying something different, but they've tried different finishes before, and a lot of times this stuff doesn't work out. When they try to do something weird, how they try, like we're going to talk about here in a minute with Seth Rollins. He was the guest on Stone Cold's latest Broken Skull Sessions, and he was bitching hard about the finish of the Hell in the Cell against The Fiend and how fucked up all that was. So it seems like it's another case of this where they're kind of doing something that just doesn't make a ton of sense, especially when you got guys just, 3 times the weight of Finn Balor, superplexing other dudes off the top of that. It was a little odd. So it kept the belt on Roman, which we all figured. He's got the date with Brock coming up in Saudi Arabia. And I believe they also added that 6-man match with the New Day, and who the hell they wrestled, but they won. So anyway, it sounded like it was an okay show. Most people were giving it like a C grade. Sounded like a show that would make a great episode of SmackDown or a great episode of Raw or a regular show. But in terms of a pay-per-view, it was like, it was what it was. But I guess if I had to miss one, that was the one to miss. I only watched the highlights. I probably watched a grand total of about 20 minutes of the show, about 5 minutes in each match or something like that is all I really watched from last night. So that's what happened. Sounded like, it was kind of just an underwhelming kind of meh type of night of wrestling last night from what I could gather from you guys. But I appreciate all the updates throughout the pay-per-view last night, keeping me abreast of what's going on there. And like I said, and like we said, with Sasha Banks coming back now and a lot of people back in the mix, you can start thinking about where people can move. And throughout the podcast here, let me know in the chat if you have any specific moves you think would be good for particular wrestlers to move to a certain brand. Do you think Charlotte should go? Would you keep the core of Charlotte and Sasha, Bianca, and Becky on SmackDown, or would you change that shit up? Would you put Charlotte over on SmackDown for a while? There's no telling what they can do. Looks like Shayna Baszler's kind of getting a little singles push here too. Would like to see her go somewhere and do something of meaning. So we'll see. Hopefully WWE puts a decent amount of thought into the draft, and starting Friday, they can make some decent decisions. You know what I mean? But anywho, we'll be getting into Raw here in 1 second. Stone Cold 10X. Thanks, dude, for the $5. I want to see Big E versus Dolph for the history. The story writes itself. Yeah, that's kind of where Big E got to start, right? At least on the main roster, backing up Dolph. Big E was a different guy back then. They were trying to make him kind of like the strong, silent, badass. It wasn't until the New Day came around that he really started coming out of his shell, and you could see what sort of charisma really lied underneath of that gigantically thick shell. I'm pretty sure, based on the look of Big E, he can bench press slightly more than me. Maybe a couple pounds, but he definitely can. He's a pretty strong-looking guy. The top rope went extreme on the Demon. I loved everybody joking around on social media and on Twitter trying to come up with the reasons why the rope did break. That's good stuff. At least people have a sense of humor about it, Yes, Zane G. Rumble location was announced. It was St. Louis. That was the rumored spot for that. I didn't realize it was going to be in the Dome. I thought the Cardinals played outdoors. I don't know and who else is there? There's no team there, no football team, right? So anyway, some dome. So I was kind of thinking it was going to be just in a smaller arena, whatever the one there is, not the Kiel Center, or whatever the hell's in St. Louis. But apparently there's going to be a pretty big stadium show, so that's awesome. Good for St. Louis. Never been there. I'm glad the Rumble is going to be in a unique kind of venue. That's good. So that is officially announced, and I'm down. You know what? I don't know. Tata Nani says fourth. C-Mac asks if this is Lashley's fourth or fifth loss in the last 2 weeks. I know Lashley has lost, but, tonight I'm actually fine with the victory. If you're going to put the belt on Big E, and he's a baby face, don't give him cheap victories. So even though I felt like Goldberg was going to come out, and do something to help Big E win, I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad we got the outcome we got. Granted, we had Hurt Business and New Day out there a little bit in the cage match, but overall, we got that match in the ring and we got the finish, and I just could not be happier with that. And I'm sure Lashley was happy to put over Big E. That's a situation and a match where I don't think it's really going to harm Lashley at all. I think they did the right thing having him take the pin there instead of Big E escaping the cage, because if Big E's your champion now, you have to establish him as someone who's capable of beating anyone. And, I think if he would have gotten cheap wins or anything like that with Lashley, it, would have diminished the fact that, he's just carrying that belt around kind of thing. So for that type of a victory, I think that's a statement that needed to happen for Big E. And it's a rebound. It's a match that Lashley easily can rebound from. This is a multi-time WWE champion now. This is not the Lashley that was farting around obstacle courses with Sami Zayn. This is a big, serious Lashley now. So, him putting over Big E, I think is great. I do worry for Lashley, however, if he's going to go into this match with Goldberg, he could be taking another L. So I don't know, but at least for right now, I'm fine with the way that match wound up. But anywho, let's get into Monday Night Raw tonight. Start going through this stuff piece by piece. Like I said, by the way, before we do that, I did mention a minute ago that Seth Rollins was Stone Cold's latest guest on Broken Skull Sessions. That episode Dropped on Peacock yesterday. I'm not all the way through it. I think I got about 40 minutes left, maybe a half an hour left, something like that. So we will discuss that a little bit more this week. I'll be up here for the Dynamite watch along. We might mention something about it. I didn't make any notes on it, but it was a pretty good watch so far, especially with some of the things that he revealed about him coming in, signing with WWE, almost signing with TNA, some heat that he had with Terry Taylor, nearly getting fired in NXT. He was a little bit mouthy a couple of times about Vince McMahon. I think in the first 20 minutes, he brings up Vince McMahon 3 specific times, and each time I don't think Vince would have loved what Seth Rollins said. One was about him and Becky planning the pregnancy, and another one was about a meeting that they had or whatnot. So he was I was surprised with how, I just kind of open he was, and it's a pretty interesting watch so far. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. I think Stone Cold has also filmed one with John Cena. I thought we were going to get that one before Rollins, but we got Seth, so hopefully the Cena one will be coming down the road. But anyway, it's a pretty good watch so far. I'm going to probably finish it up tonight. So if you haven't seen it on the cock, check it out. Now we can talk about Raw. Asuka, Ricochet to SmackDown, Roman to Raw. Big J, I like both of those. No issue with either one of those suggestions. All right, let's get into tonight's Monday Night Raw. Of course, we had the big WWE title match advertised, and WWE let everybody know via social media over the weekend that Bobby Lashley versus Big E for the title would open the show. So that told me right away, interference, DQ, restart, main event type of thing. It was like, that shit was written all over it. So we get the match. We get Lashley and Big E, and right off the bat, I don't know, I guess I sense a little bit more of a intensity in Big E now that he's got the title. He certainly isn't going out there and walking through these matches. He's got a little bit more intensity to him, and right from the start, they don't play games. He actually gets in the ring and just bitch slaps Bobby Lashley right across the face, and they begin brawling. So it's no fear from Big E. He's standing toe-to-toe with Lashley. He's not backing down, and he ain't scared to slap this dude in the face. So Lashley, of course, then goes off, starts beating the hell out of Big E, and Lashley remains mostly dominant throughout that entire match for, the majority of it, just beating down Big E. It almost had like shades of what Brock was doing to John Cena at like Extreme Rules. Like when Brock first came back and the entire match was him, and kind of SummerSlam 2014, it was like that too, where he was just having his way pretty much, manhandling John Cena, toying with him almost. Lashley was doing a little bit of that. However, Big E was really, really fighting back, hard, and he would do the same thing later on in the cage match. So Big E, after a few minutes, gets tossed on the outside of the ring, and that's when, out of nowhere, like over the barricade or through the crowd or whatnot, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander show up. Both of them are wearing their Hurt Business shirts, and they just kind of, I guess they sandwich Big E, and the New Day then comes out and attacks them and brawls with them. And everything breaks down. All 6 men start going nuts on each other. The announce team start alluding to the fact that the Hurt Business might be getting back together, because why would they be there with the shirts on? So that's a pretty big clue. And everybody starts brawling. Adam Pearce comes out pissed off. He's screaming on the mic, and he says that this match is not going to end this way, and we are going to get a WWE title match, and we are going to get a winner. So later on in the main event, Big E and Lashley would wrestle again for the title. This time, it will be inside of a steel cage to keep all of these other parties out. So that was cool. I thought for sure he was going to announce a 6-man, playa, and we'd go to commercial, come back and get the impromptu 6-man. But instead, we get basically a second WWE title match. So technically, we have 4 title matches on the show tonight, which is not really a bad thing. They certainly stacked it up. So we go to commercial after that, after the big announcement, and Big E and Lashley would be back out there later for the cage match. I had to leave my house actually briefly during the next match and some of the second one, or some of the next one after that. So I kind of missed Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo defeating the Viking Raiders, missed most of that. I do like the team of Garza and Carrillo. Why not? They are related. They had that feud a while back, and now they're just kind of mashed together. There are some really good kind of makeshift teams thrown together. Garza and Humberto and Ali and Mansoor are similar, but I think both are really good teams and have given the chance to actually become a team and grow as a team. Then both teams are capable of championships, I believe. And I also think one of them could wind up on the blue brand starting on Friday. After that, we got Ricochet taking on Reginald. So Ricochet is in this 24/7 nonsense. And at ringside, it was funny. In the front row, we had Drew Gulak and we had Drake Maverick and I think R-Truth were at ringside, basically sitting there in the seats. They jumped the barricade, get involved in the match. I don't even know what the finish was or what the official word of the result of the match. Referee calls a big schmaz DQ, whatever, and Reginald is able to escape. I think Tozawa is out there as well, so it wasn't exactly the Radicals jumping the barricade and getting in the middle of it. It was just ridiculous 24/7 nonsense. And then after that, I guess Tozawa stays in the ring. We go to commercial. We come back. We get a Riddle promo. He's got a match later on against AJ Styles, and Randy Orton is taking the night off, and Riddle just rambles and rambles about all sorts of weird-ass shit. He's got his headphones on, and he's rocking out to Randy Orton's theme song, and then he looks up to see AJ Styles and Omos standing right in front of him, and it kind of fades to black. So we got Riddle and AJ. I've even put on Twitter, I'm like, AJ Styles is going to win that match because AJ took a loss to Randy Orton, recently. Randy Orton's not even there. AJ's got Omos with him. He's going to beat Riddle later on. So they did that little promo there. We go back, and we've got Tozawa in the ring. And I guess he's still out there from the 24/7 shit they were doing earlier, and he's demanding a match with anyone. He basically is issuing his own open challenge. Charlotte would be issuing one later on. So he wants anybody to come out and fight him, and it turns out to be Keith Lee, who is now using the nickname Bearcat. So now he's going to be Keith Bearcat Lee, and it looks like they've also tweaked up his wardrobe or his attire or his gear yet again, and now they've got Bearcat written across it. And, it's not, a lot of people have pointed out, we all know this, the Bearcat name is a tribute to Bearcat Wright, which I think is a great tribute. Bearcat Wright was a very prominent black wrestler during the civil rights era in the 50s and 60s. He was even one of the first black champion ever, and he has a lot of history there. And that's great if they want to tribute that name. That doesn't bother me at all. As a matter of fact, I think that's quite awesome. But I still don't like it on Keith Lee. It's almost as if, it's like my biggest problem with Keith Lee is that they changed him at all. It's the same problem I have with Karrion Kross. I'm like, I cannot believe, even tonight, we'll talk about here in a minute, he cuts this great kind of like backstage, kind of black and white promo, kind of putting over, kind of what a mean monster he is. And then he comes out there looking like a fucking 5-year-old on Halloween. It's like as soon as they were done with that promo that I thought was good, they cut to his match and he's wearing that fucking helmet. And I'm like, I can't take this shit seriously. Like there was nothing wrong with him. So with Keith Lee, it was the same thing. As soon as he got to the roster, they changed his music, they changed what he wore to the ring several times, they left him off TV, they just couldn't figure out anything to do with him. So now they've decided to do Bearcat Lee, which again is fine, but I think it's just them throwing some sort of change at Keith Lee that isn't necessary. If Keith Lee was having a flourishing WWE run and he was on TV every week and he was already winning a couple of championships, he was over, and he went to WWE management, he's like, you know what? I would like to add the nickname Bearcat. I think it would be a cool tribute to Bearcat Wright. And what do you say if I started using that? If it was a situation like that, I would be way more behind it than I am. But this is something that I think the WWE just didn't even need to do with him at all. And it's another example of them just trying to fix shit that ain't broke. And if I'm booking Keith Lee, here's what I do. Try to follow me here. This is very complex. So if you want to book Keith Lee and be able to get him over and present him and establish him as a tough main event player, here's what you do. Now, you might want to get a pen and paper and write this down because it's a lot of steps. So the first thing you do is you look at his NXT career and you look at everything he did in NXT and you say, okay, then you take all of that and you do it on Raw. The end. Should work just fine. But this is WWE we're talking about, and they don't do anything the easy way. They do everything the hard way. They take the long way, and even when they fall ass backwards into a good opportunity, they still seem to manage to squander it somehow. So it's not the name itself that bothers me. It's the fact that they're changing constantly shit that doesn't need to be changed. At least, like a lot of fans are pointing out, this is a very nice change because it's a tribute to Bearcat Wright. That's great. but I don't think it was really something that was necessary to begin with. So I just wanted to make that clear because I mentioned a couple things on Twitter, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm like against the name itself. The name and the tribute and the reasoning behind it is awesome. It's just, did it even need to be done? I say no. So we will see how this affects Keith Lee. Hopefully, they're gearing up for him to do something. They're getting a lot of guys that we haven't seen a while on TV, reminding us of them, because they probably are going to start moving some guys around in the draft. So the fact that Keith Lee had a match tonight makes me think he's jumping to SmackDown. I actually think he might do that. So we will see what happens on Friday because if they were going to draft him to SmackDown, I feel like we wouldn't even, if they were going to leave him on Raw, I should say, he would have not been on the show at all. I don't know. I could be reading way too much into it. We'll see where he lands, but I feel like he could be another one on the move. But we'll talk about more draft stuff as we go, and I'll read some of the comments from all of you. Ronnie's in the house. Good to see you, man. What's good? I'm glad you are here as well. Pretty low audience tonight, but at least you're here, man. Glad you dropped by to hang out with us this evening. It's good to see Sunny Man in here, too, and all y'all. Right on. Where were we on the Raw results? Left off with Keith Lee beating the shit and squashing poor Tozawa. After that, we got a New Day promo. They're back there hyping up their match later on, Big E's match later on with Big E. That was fun stuff. Then we get a hell of a match between Damian Priest and Sheamus for the U.S. title. This is a no count out, no disqualification match, so this has to be a straight-up winner here. These guys destroyed each other. My God. I've been singing the praises of Sheamus for close to a year now, but I want to continue to sing his praises because I just think he is doing the best work of his career. He is such a good wrestler, and he is such a no-nonsense, hard-hitting motherfucker that just pulverizes his body on a weekly basis. And this guy is somebody, 40 years old, in his 40s now? He is a veteran, and he is solidifying. If anybody ever had a question if Sheamus was a Hall of Fame caliber wrestler, let me tell you something, he is. Because he just, and he does a lot of this. Some of the most impressive in-ring outings that I've seen from Sheamus in the last, year have mostly been in losing efforts. Great matches against Riddle, great matches against McIntyre, great stuff against Damian Priest. I mean, he wrestles well, and he wrestles hard, and tonight was no exception. Now, this was the match of welts and kendo sticks. My God, these guys, especially Sheamus, their shit was just all cut up. It was so gnarly. Priest took one of the biggest bumps of the night, took a white noise from the apron through a table on the outside of the ring. That was bad. Kendo sticks were out. These guys were wearing each other out. Priest was all cut up. One really, really nasty-looking laceration or welt or something on the back of him. And Sheamus, of course, because he's so damn white, it shows up so much more. And he just had these streaks, these stripes, these red stripes all over his back, blood on his arm, his back, his legs, all over the place, just beating the hell out of each other. And he did his damnedest to really put Damian Priest over. And in the end, Sheamus takes a reversal into a table that's set up in the corner, and that allows Damian Priest to eventually nail him with the reckoning and get the win after just a fucking hellacious match and a lot of kickouts by Damian Priest. He was surviving everything Sheamus was throwing at him and vice versa until they got to that ending spot. But I thought that was just a great, great, great match. Damian Priest is really impressive, and Sheamus, like I said, he is... I've just been a huge fan of his. I can't say good things about him. And I think he should be rewarded, and he's already kind of been. We talked about that earlier on in the year. I was singing his praises when he was out there just tearing the house down with Drew McIntyre every week, and he was losing to McIntyre. And when WrestleMania came around, and I was like, this guy needs to be rewarded for all the hard work he did putting McIntyre over. And sure enough, they gave him the U.S. title. And but then he would drop that right after. So I almost feel like it's time to reward him again, and he's another guy that I think could benefit from a jump to the other brand. Get Sheamus involved in that IC title situation over there or something, I think could be good for him, and he definitely deserves some more championships before he retires because he's awesome. Didn't catch too much of the next match either. 6-man match between Mansoor, Mustafa Ali, and Jeff Hardy taking on Jinder Mahal, Veer, and Shanky. I didn't catch if there was any dissension between Ali, Jeff, and Mansoor. There was a backstage spot where I think it was Ali making fun of Jeff or something, and then Jeff showed up. He goes, "What are you talking shit about me?" or something like that. So I don't know if that played into the outcome here. I kind of missed it. Didn't even see who got the pin. All I know is the heels won. Sorry, I don't have any more information for you on that very, very exciting 6-man encounter. After that, we got a Karrion Kross promo. Like I said a little while ago when I mentioned this, I like all of this. You know, his promo style is a little weird, but I still liked the setup, and I really liked the way he looked. Just simple. You know, it's not like he's got a ugly face or anything. It's not like he's Cactus Jack. He's a decent looking guy. So you don't need to put a fucking Darth Vader helmet on him. So when he's just there like that, talking, using his face to tell his story and looking into the camera, to me, that's perfect. That's perfect. You know, and what made this whole situation so comical is I'm watching this promo and I'm saying, yeah, this is good. I mean, Karrion Kross is still not like my favorite guy or anything, but this I like. I like the way they're presenting him here. And I'm kind of nodding my head. I'm like, okay, this is good. Let's just keep going with this. And then it immediately cuts to his match. And it's just the close-up of him wearing the hat and the suspenders. And I'm like, oh, I was like really into it for a second, and then you just fucking killed it. So only WWE can accomplish that in combining something that looks really great and something that looks really stupid. But anyway, he's out there. He's going to be taking on Jackson Riker, who we have to remember is a babyface for some reason. And this was a pretty quick match. Thank God, not a match I care about at all. And it did not take Kross long to lock in a pretty shitty looking cross jacket. Didn't really have that thing cinched up too well, but Jackson tapped out anyway, which was nice. Statement win for Kross, you know, made easy work of this guy. I guess they're going to continue to do this with Kross, which is fine. I just think, I just really wish, like I've been complaining about with Keith Lee, I just really wish that Karrion Kross could just do and look like what he was doing in NXT. And that's fine. As we're going to talk about here with Shayna Baszler in a minute, she had another victim tonight, beat the hell out of poor Eva Marie after sending Nia Jax to the hospital last week. I'm like, there you go. Reminds me of a Shayna Baszler that I used to know on the Black and Gold brand. She used to do much the same stuff there. So now you're bringing her to Raw, and, you know, you've done everything you've done with her and made her a damn mockery, and now you're just trying something different. Oh, let's just do what we should have done with her from the start. And what do you know? Crowd's reacting to it. Crowd likes it. Crazy concept, you know. And here with Kross, with Lee, guys like that, it's the same thing. So, I think Karrion Kross just had enormous potential, and now I just don't know what the hell WWE's ever thinking. So anyway, he tapped out Jackson Riker rather quickly. Big squash there. We'll see who his victim is next week. I'm sure he will beat the hell out of somebody else, but he'll still be wearing that helmet, which I'm not going to be able to get past. After that, we had another great match. Like I said, tonight was filled with a lot of great wrestling. Lashley and Big E came through. Priest and Sheamus came through, and so did AJ Styles and Riddle, even though it was a typical match. Same shit we see when tag team champions are feuding with somebody. You get the singles bouts. We got Orton and AJ last week. Now it's Riddle and AJ. Plus, Orton is even in the building tonight, so I kind of felt like since AJ took the loss last week, Riddle ain't got no backup. Orton's gone. AJ's going to have to beat Matt Riddle here. That's exactly what happened, but not before. These two guys had a really great match, a really good match. I'd say 15 minutes, maybe. The match went, which was great. Scariest spot in the match was a really nasty fall on a burning hammer from Riddle, or from AJ onto Riddle, who fell right on the top of his head, but managed to avoid serious injury there, it looked like, and AJ was able to lock him in to the Styles Clash for the win in the end. Of course, Omos was at ringside. You know, he was a very intimidating factor there. And at the end of the match, he would get in the ring and crush Riddle, pick him up, slam him down, that sort of thing. So Riddle was really facing an uphill battle, and Omos didn't get too involved in the match, which I did like. He didn't completely cost Riddle the match, although I think there was a couple of times where he was involved out there. It was more about what was going on in the ring, which I appreciated because Styles and Riddle have worked a lot since Riddle was called up, but every time they do, they work very smooth matches together. So it wasn't one that I had a complaint about at all. Then we get Charlotte Flair's open challenge. Now, this was announced on social media that she's going to issue an open challenge. So what I was hoping would happen is she would come to the ring, get on the mic, and issue her open challenge, and somebody would come up, maybe an NXT call-up, you know, or something like that to bring somebody new onto the scene, since it looks like she's not going to have anything to do with Alexa Bliss for a while. But instead, we get Dewdrop approaching Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce backstage a couple of segments before this, basically asking to be the challenger, and they're like, okay, which I just find ludicrous because I like Dewdrop. I'd rather have her be just Piper Niven and get a push. It's not that. It's just, if they made the announcement on social media like earlier today, like around lunchtime, it took 1 hour into the show for a wrestler to approach Adam or Sonya and say, yeah, I want to be the person that faces Charlotte. Why did somebody not come to her during catering, or come to Adam when everybody was arriving, or be the first one to the building, or text as soon as they saw it on social media, send a text to Adam or Sonya, hey, let me be that person? Like, why did it take until showtime for somebody to want to capitalize on that? Nobody else in the locker room wants to be women's champion, just Dewdrop. So I found that to be weird. So she shows up, they give her the match, and they grant it to her, which means it's not going to be any sort of a surprise challenger, which I guess is fine, because if it did turn out to be Dewdrop, I don't know if the fans would really care. But we also know that Dewdrop has been in this feud with Eva Marie, and even though Dewdrop has by far won the feud, squashed Eva Marie in this feud, beat her more than once, the feud should be over. We know damn well it ain't gonna be. So Dewdrop versus Charlotte is your match for the title. Match goes on for a little bit. It's probably pretty cool for Dewdrop to be in the ring with Charlotte. I would say that's kind of nice for her to get in there, with the top star in the company, or the top woman wrestler they have. But it was probably only going to be done to continue the shit with Eva Marie. So I was just kind of waiting. I'm like, oh, Eva Marie's going to run in and cost her the match. It wasn't that. It was even worse. It was Eva Marie's music showing up, and it's one of my biggest complaints. This is what WWE does. They do it all the time. It's so awful. It's always these distraction victories, and it's always whoever you're feuding with's music hits, and it somehow triggers something in their brain to forget that they're in a wrestling match, to completely forget that the championship title is on the line. Women's title. You can make history here, beating WWE's female version of Bruno Sammartino, or their female Ric Flair. I mean, Charlotte is the woman in that company, and you got a chance to beat her, make a name for yourself. You'd be like Goldberg beating Hogan, except much, much smaller. And because Eva Marie's music plays, you have to completely forget that that's going on and look up at the ramp. And what happened? Boom. Natural selection. Right to her from Charlotte for the win. Charlotte retains the title. And, maybe with Dewdrop, you could make the case that she's young and she's a little bit more inexperienced, only a couple of years in the business. So maybe that's something that she would fall for. But even veterans fall for this shit. You can be a 20-year pro, and somebody's music hits, and you're like, what? And then you just completely forget about the match, allowing your opponent to Pearl Harbor you and get the better of you and beat you. It's just ridiculous. I fucking hate it. I'd rather her just run out there with no music and trip her when she's running the ropes or something like that, or distract the referee so Charlotte can brass knuckle her or something like that, something a little bit more realistic. But nope, the music always has to hit, and then the wrestler in the ring immediately has to forget that they're even in a match. So that's what happened there to poor Dewdrop. Charlotte retains the title, and we'll have to see what Charlotte moves on to do next. She's another one that maybe could move in the draft. Champions, I think, are eligible, right? Can they bounce some people around? So they might want to move Becky over to Raw, Charlotte to SmackDown. I don't know. And it looks like Alexa Bliss, for the time being, might be off of TV to, I guess, nurse Lily back to health. Get well, Lily. Lily might be all elite. We don't know. We'll have to see. After that, we get a Goldberg promo, which WWE didn't promote at all during the day. I didn't see anything about this on WWE social media prior to a Raw or SmackDown. They usually don't shut the fuck up about whatever they have planned. So it feels like if Goldberg was going to be there, they would tweet it out 75 fucking times before lunch. But I never saw anything. So Goldberg, then they started announcing him to have a promo, and it was a via satellite deal, and I didn't listen to much of it. Basically, he's just vowing to get to Lashley. He said Lashley is going to be next, and when you threaten my son, I'm going to kill. He even said he's going to kill him and stuff, so Goldberg's very upset. The one good thing about this is that there's no championship to worry about. If WWE wants to insist on Goldberg and Lashley facing each other, fine. I really don't want Goldberg to win, but what I would want even less than that is for Goldberg to win and be champion. So at least if they're going to do the ridiculous thing that I think they're going to do and put Goldberg over Lashley, at least he's not going to be champion. So we do have that. And I guess that match is going to be made for Saudi Arabia. You know Goldberg's going to get that payday, and he's going to go to Crown Jewel to face Lashley. It might be some sort of an extreme type of match, or maybe a cage match again. I don't know. But I would think that they're going to set that up soon, right? It'd have to be soon, like really soon. We will see. After the Goldberg promo, this was great. So we just had, like I said, Dewdrop and Charlotte. One thing I omitted to mention about the Dewdrop and Charlotte title match is that after Charlotte won, because Eva Marie distracted Dewdrop, Eva Marie got in the ring and started like putting the boots to Dewdrop or whatever, and Charlotte turns around then and nails Eva Marie, which was great to see Charlotte knock her down and just kind of kicks dirt on her and walks away. I loved that. Welcome to the big time, Eva Marie. So not only does Charlotte do that to her, we get the Goldberg promo, we come back and Eva Marie is still in the ring and she's cutting a promo and basically she lays down in open challenge. So this seems to be like a theme. I believe that's kind of what she did, right? Because Tozawa did the same thing earlier. So she's like, I want anybody should come out and face me, or I don't know what the fuck she said. But that prompts Shayna Baszler to come out. Shayna's music hits. Eva Marie kind of gulps a little bit. And I'm like, oh, this is good. And Shayna comes out there and just beats the hell out of Eva. The crowd is loving it. And beats her up in the ring, tosses her on the outside of the ring, and does the deal a lot very similar to what she did to Nia Jax last week, where she positions Eva Marie's arm on the steps and then she gives it a good stomp and Eva sells it. Crowd loved it. Shayna is a killer, and I mentioned this just, I don't know, a couple of months ago. I said, I want the biting people's ears off Shayna Baszler. Remember when she bit Becky and there's blood coming down her mouth? Like, give me that Shayna. And, it's a crazy concept just to make Shayna a killer like she always was, but she had that mystique about her. She had that her matches felt big time in NXT. She was unbeatable. She was just mowing down everybody to the point where the fans are getting mad. So it doesn't make sense that she's winning. I mean, they were just that mad that somebody would hold the title that long. So, she was great. And then you get to the main roster and it's just like, it was immediately just drained away from her. So the fact that she's now 2 weeks in a row, at least in kayfabe, put two big-time stars on the shelf, that's kind of establishing her as somebody not to be trifled with, and I like that. And I think it's way overdue that Shayna Baszler actually got a run with one of the world titles on the main roster. So I'm into that happening, and if it winds up being Charlotte she beats or whatever, I'm hoping that this leads to a Shayna Baszler title victory at some point, regardless of what brand she's on. So we will see what happens down the road, but that was fun. Shayna Baszler and Charlotte both beating the hell out of Eva Marie in the same night. I mean, is this going to be a write-off for Eva Marie? I mean, the fans don't give a fuck about her, and I know WWE, she's been there for a while, and WWE's brought her in and out, and they featured her on TV in decently sized roles and whatnot, but nobody cares about her. She gets booed. I know she's a heel, but even if she was a babyface, I don't think anybody's going to give a shit. I don't know how much they're paying her, but based on what they did to her here, I mean, I don't know. They might have wrote her off TV too. I don't know. So we'll see if Eva Marie moves, if Nia Jax moves, and if Dewdrop moves in the draft. I think that I'm hoping that Dewdrop and Eva Marie splitting, because this feud should be over, but with Eva Marie now coming out costing Dewdrop the match, that makes me think they're going to keep these two on the same brand in the draft, which would suck because there's no reason for this to continue, and there's no reason for Dewdrop and Eva Marie to still have an issue with each other. But they are, and we're going to get matches between them probably until October, or I'm sorry, November. And that, I think, just leaves us with the main event. Again, Bobby Lashley challenging Big E for the WWE title. This time it's going to be inside of a steel cage. A very, very furious Adam Pearce made this match in the opening segment on the show when the reuniting Hurt Business came out to interfere in the championship match, which brought out the New Day, which led to a big brawl, which led to Adam Pearce's panties being in a bunch. And speaking of the Authority, earlier on when Dewdrop approached them about the title match, Sonya threw a little shade at Naomi for no reason. So I feel like Naomi, the only right thing to do in the situation is have Naomi snap and murder Sonya. I mean, just fuck her up, slamming her head repeatedly against a table, throwing her head first through a mirror, cutting her hair off, putting her through a table, tossing her off the top of the Kobo Hall and into the river. Whatever you can do, just go nuts, because Naomi and her globe bullshit isn't doing it for me. They got an opportunity here to do something with these two and actually maybe even get Sonya Deville back in the ring. And I hope it actually leads to something decent, because I'm sort of optimistic about it, because I really just think Naomi is desperate for a change, and this could be something that could facilitate that. So we'll see what goes on SmackDown. But Sonya taking their time out of her day to throw shade at Naomi on Raw, I found interesting, and I can't wait till Naomi shuts her up. I need angry Naomi. I need very, very angry Naomi. I think she's got potential. So we'll see if she comes out and if Sonya brings her out. We'll find out. Anyway, like I said, Bobby Lashley challenging Big E for the WWE title inside of a cage. This match started at the bottom of the hour, so we had a full 30 minutes to get through it. So before the match even can start, we get a brawl on the outside of the ring, and it goes on for a while. I think a table is even involved. They're beating the hell out of each other on the outside of the ring, and there's no bell. The match hasn't started, and they brawl for so long that we actually go to a commercial. And when we come back, now both guys have made their way into the ring. The match can start. It is a cage match where you can win via escaping the cage. Sometimes that's a rule, sometimes it's not, but it is a rule this time. And Big E, I guess he's midway through it there. He's close to climbing out. These guys, by the way, it was much the same as we saw in the opening match. It was very hard hitting. Big E was not backing down. He was being able to hang and stand toe-to-toe, exchanging blows with Lashley, I thought, very well. But the match had the same tone as the earlier match, where it was very, very Bobby Lashley heavy. He was very dominant through this. He was toying with Big E a lot. As big and bad, as strong as Big E is, he ain't Bobby Lashley, and they really established that Lashley really is kind of the tougher of the two and just really beating down Big E, but Big E just kept fighting. He wouldn't die. He was kicking out of everything. He was fighting back, returning every punch that he could, despite the dominant nature of Lashley. So he's close to climbing out at one point. He's got Lashley down, and he starts climbing, making his way to the top. And earlier on, Adam Pearce, he did not ban New Day or Hurt Business from the ring. He just said he's putting the match in the cage so nobody can get in, which we know that's bullshit. So Hurt Business show up, they climb up to the top, and they shove Big E off, so they stop him from winning. That prompts the New Day to come out, with Xavier Woods hopping over the barricade, because now the Big E has been shoved back in the ring. Lashley's trying to crawl out the door, so Xavier Woods hops over the barricade, runs, and slams the door on Lashley's head. So we get a big brawl between the Hurt Business and the New Day on the outside of the ring, and we go to commercial again. We come back, and you've got Big E telling the story of just fighting through everything. Everything Lashley is hitting him with, he's kicking out. Kick out after kick out after kick out. He's refusing to die. In the end, he winds up getting Lashley up on the second rope and hits him with a second rope big ending, which I think he had already hit one in the match and Lashley had kicked out, I believe. Can't remember. Wound up hitting a second rope big ending, which in a pin that almost caught me off guard, because there was still like 3 minutes left in the show, and I thought it was going to be like a dramatic near fall and then maybe hit him with another one, but he got the win. And I was like, holy shit. I cannot tell you how much that surprises me. I thought for sure they would bring Goldberg out there and he would rip the cage off, because nobody else can get in unless you're as strong as Goldberg. And he'd rip the cage off like Kane in Hell in the Cell and have a stare down with Lashley, allowing Big E to escape or something like that. So the fact that they actually gave their champion a victory and had him beat somebody that's a very, very strong and credible champion in his own right, I thought was the right thing to do. They put the belt on Big E, whether they hot-shotted it or not. They've done it. They have to roll with it now. And to give him cheap victories as a babyface, I don't think is going to do any favors for Big E to establish him as a major player. He's got to get some wins. So I stand corrected here. I thought it was going to be Goldberg, and I've never been happier to be wrong. I'm glad that he got that win on his own. In terms of Lashley, no issue with him taking the loss at all. Seems like he's been losing a little bit on TV. That is true. But in terms of this particular match, take away the other maybe recent losses that he's had, this particular match I think ended the way it needed to end. And with Lashley putting over Big E here, there's nothing wrong with that. Lashley can easily find his way back to the title. He can be rejuvenated if he switched brands. Anything like that, I just think in the end, it's not going to be something that's going to harm Lashley. Like I said, this isn't the same Lashley that was doing the obstacle courses with Sami Zayn's sisters or whatever the hell was going on a couple of years ago. This is a whole different persona and character. And I think Big E having a victory over him like this in a cage does a hell of a lot more to benefit and help and establish Big E as a champion than it does to harm Lashley in any way. So that's my opinion there, and I'm very happy with the outcome. So anyway, after he wins the match and he's celebrating, we randomly get Drew McIntyre's music. We hadn't seen him all night, and he comes out. He's kind of got nothing to do because he was feuding with Jinder. Thankfully, that ridiculous shit seems to be over. So Drew needs something to do. And now it appears that he's coming out and issuing a challenge to Big E. They don't come face to face. I don't even think Drew even gets in the ring. I think he stays on the stage. A little stare down there, and basically Drew is making a statement that he wants to be the next challenger for Big E. So we'll see if he winds up jumping in the draft or what goes on with McIntyre. He's definitely a guy I had pegged to move to SmackDown, but maybe now he's not unless they move a bunch of shit. They might move Drew over to SmackDown, but they might move Big E with him. And they can continue there. Because, I mean, why would you set this up? You know what I mean? Like, why would you have Drew come out there if you plan on separating these guys in the draft? So this tells me they're going to be on the same brand somewhere, and McIntyre might be Big E's next challenger. And that might be SmackDown. They might be moving Roman and that entire bloodline to Raw. They should not need to ask permission from these fucking networks. And I don't like it that we're already seeing networks kind of dictate some booking and whatnot. But you know, if WWE is really concerned about the Monday Night Football shit and they want to maintain good Monday night ratings, they know the Roman Reigns stuff has been doing well on SmackDown. And if they move that entire situation over to Raw and try to compensate SmackDown as best they can and ease Fox's worry, like, look, we're just going to take Roman for Monday Night Football season so we don't get killed in the ratings. We'll give him back to you or whatever, or we'll give you Brock. You know, maybe Brock stays over there. I don't know. So I think Roman is likely to move over to Raw, and I think Drew and maybe some others over to SmackDown. I don't know, but I think if Roman moves to Raw and he's champion, then you got to move Big E over to SmackDown as WWE champion. I think that is possible. So I think Big E and Drew could go to Fridays, I feel like. So we will see what goes on down the road, but I feel they wouldn't go through the trouble of kind of planting the seed of Drew and Big E if they weren't going to do Drew and Big E. So I guess that'll be our next match. And you're right, babyface versus babyface. I don't know how that's going to work sometimes, but it also might be another way for one reason why I wouldn't be upset with the match is if Drew McIntyre puts Big E over. Drew's had his runs with the title. So he's another former champion. He's another big name that WWE's established in the last couple of years. And he's been on top now. What is he, 2 or 3-time former WWE champion? Big E beating him is another great feather in his cap, and that's what you should do. You should be building up Big E as champion. You should have some victories lined up for him where he's defeating some former world champions, former recent world champions. And Lashley, then he beats McIntyre. You put him in another match, have him beat somebody else. I think this is a good way to establish Big E. So I think I'm looking at the silver lining here. I think some fans might be like, oh, what, Drew again? But no, look at the situation. We don't really want Big E to be dropping the belt right now. So what's the difference who he wrestles? You know, McIntyre is an established top-level star. You know, guy that's main evented WrestleMania and holds victories over Brock Lesnar, the whole 9 yards. He's a quality victory. He's a quality win. So if these two guys are headed for a collision, I think Big E's going to come out on the other side of that as the winner, and that's good. So if you want a more exciting opponent for him, I suppose I could understand that, but I think WWE might want to get good quality victories under Big E's belt while he's champion. Give him a run with some wins. That's the right way to do it. That's how you build champions and give them credibility and stuff. So I'm glad that they appear to be all in on Big E, at least for right now, although Survivor Series is on the horizon and a lot can change by the time we get to Survivor Series. And even more can change by the time we get to the Royal Rumble in St. Louis in January, I believe. What's my go-to food? I don't know, man. I like sandwiches. I'm like Joey from Friends. I really like sandwiches. I also like wings. I eat a lot of sandwiches. I eat a lot of wings. But I also eat everything. I eat a lot of steak. I'm going to eat a steak when I'm done streaming tonight. I got a delicious New York strip, a couple of those we're going to throw on the grill. We're going to finish watching Seth Rollins on Broken Skull Sessions. And, I don't know, maybe a Golden Girls Marathon, something like that. We'll see. Bloodline to Raw, Hurt Business to SmackDown. I like it, JJ Leg. I'm cool with that. That might be why they have reunited the Hurt Business. Shout out to the brave WWE employee who was the voice of reason there and say, look at what happened when we broke these guys up. They were a good, very strong faction that gave decent stuff for Shelton and Cedric to do, significant things on TV, gave them TV time and put them, and it featured them and showcased them and all of that. And then as soon as you broke them up, boom, right back to catering. So I'm glad that they are back. They should have never left. Stone Cold 10X. Thanks for the $5. I know people don't want it, but I do. Xavier heel turn on New Day like Seth did to the Shield. I don't want. I'm to the point now where I'm starting to treat the New Day like the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. It's been so long now, I don't even think I want it to happen. I don't think I want the breakup to happen, the split. I think it would be heartbreaking. I was heartbroken when Seth turned heel on the Shield because I was a big Shield mark. Those of you who have been listening to me since back then remember those days when I was the biggest fangirl of the Shield you would have ever seen. So I wasn't ready. I thought they had 6 more months before that happened. But with New Day, it's to the point where, oh man, I just don't want to see it. However, you've got the right member, because if there's one to do the heel turn, Xavier has to be the one, because he's the one outstanding guy that doesn't have the title or has never been a champion. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think he's going to get there. I'm the biggest Xavier Woods fan in the world, but I just don't think he'll win the title. I think he might win King of the Ring, and they might want to try to do something with him, but they could do, I shouldn't say that, because Xavier Woods is actually perfectly capable of finding the same type of support and the same type of scenario that Kofi Kingston did, where he gets put into a situation, the fans realize that, let's give it to him, man. We've been cheering for him for years. This fucking guy deserves it, and you can kind of recreate that. So I shouldn't say he's not going to make it, because I think you could find him in a situation or put him in a position to where the fans could get behind him the way they got behind Kofi, or get behind him the way they got behind Daniel Bryan back in 2014. I still think that is possible. I just feel like it's kind of unlikely. So he would be a great guy to turn heel. You guys think you're better than me, or whatever. He's all sorts of shit you could use. You could tap in to the fact that he hasn't achieved what the others have achieved. But I think I'd be very heartbroken if that happened, and I'd have trouble sleeping at night, and I would need a hug. I don't want to see them break up. I'd be so sad. Chris Ludecki, thanks, dude. Appreciate the $5 from you. Good to see you, man. Do you think Drew turns heel after losing to Big E and we get the inevitable reuniting of 3MB to feud with New Day? I like it. I got no issue with that. I would love to see Heath Slater get rehired. And I've also been talking about a Drew McIntyre heel turn for a while. I feel like Drew McIntyre and Cody's heel turn has always coincided. I've been talking about the two of them for about the same amount of time. It's going to happen, I think. So, yeah, Drew, I think if he does a feud with Big E and then turns heel, or turns heel during the feud or before the feud really starts, or in their first in-ring segment together, maybe he does something where he turns heel and beats the hell out of Big E and becomes the evil Scottish warrior, but then you're going to beat him right away upon turning heel. So I think your scenario is probably better. Turn him heel after losing to Big E. That way he can get the loss done and out of the way, then turn heel and with a whole fresh start. Where if you turn heel and then immediately lose, your fresh start's killed. So I think, have him do a babyface deal, Big E and McIntyre. Drew probably is eager and more than happy and willing and anxious to put his friend over, I'm sure, and he'll probably make him look great. He's probably honored and more than happy to do it. And then after that, you can turn him and he can do a whole new, fresh set of shit, which could include another title run, but this time as a heel. I still think Drew and Roman have got to have another showdown sometime in the future as well, Off Leather Wings, thank you for the $2. How was it seeing Nirvana blow up back in the day? That's an interesting question. It was awesome. I remember I was about 14 or 15 when Nevermind came out, and we were all talking about this song, this new song that's on MTV now. And one of my friends knew about Nirvana. I already had Bleach. He already had their first album. I didn't, though. And that video came out, and he couldn't understand what the fuck he was saying. And then the Weird Al version came out. But I loved Nirvana. I think I like Pearl Jam overall more. But Nirvana was pretty high. That 3 years was crazy, from like 91 to 94 until Cobain killed himself. But I loved that. Was an interesting decade. The 90s was you were at the tail end of the 80s, where you had the big metal hair bands and the lipstick and the hairspray and all the shit they were doing. And then it kind of transitioned into that grunge aesthetic where everybody's wearing the flannel and you kind of get that grunge look. And then the 90s took another turn. Around mid-90s, almost like grunge in a way cooled off with the Kurt Cobain suicide. And then Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men, and they started topping the charts. And then we finished out the decade with Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys. It was a very, very, very interesting decade in music. And a lot of people say there's two 90s. There's the grunge beginning, and then there's the hip hop middle, and the boy band ending. It's odd. It's a very strange decade. But I remember the Nirvana stuff well. I remember when I heard about Kurt Cobain's death, I was in a minivan with my entire family driving home from Florida. We were down there visiting my grandparents for Easter. They lived down there. We were driving back to North Carolina, and I was listening to headphones. I had my Discman. I was like in the back seat. I would always sit in the back seat because I was a teenager. So I would sit back there. My sisters would be sitting in the middle, and I had my Nirvana CD in my rotation. I had just listened to it like 3 hours before. I think I had I was listening. Actually, I remember what I was listening to. I was listening to Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith. That was the CD that was in my CD player, my portable CD player with my headphones, and I had taken them off. They were around my neck, and we're talking in the car, we're mentioning something, and my dad's got the radio on, and you hear the news comes on to say Kurt Cobain was found dead. So I found out like in the car on I-95, probably somewhere in Georgia in 1994. And I remember we were coming back from our Easter trip, and that's how I found out about Cobain's death. So I swapped it. I was pretty floored by it, and I put the Unplugged CD in and listened to that, and it was pretty sad. That was pretty just gnarly situation. And Kurt was a very troubled soul, but hell, it's been 27 years, something like that, since he died. That is just incredible, man. I'm liking some people. I don't want to see, like I said, the New Day break up, but I have seen ideas about members joining the Hurt Business. If Xavier jumps and joins the Hurt Business, hey, I've been with New Day, I've never won the title, but MVP, maybe he can make me a champion. I don't know. There is story. I'm not saying there's not a story there if you decided to do some sort of a turn with the New Day, but much like the Undertaker streak, it's just something that I don't think my wrestling heart can take, because I've grown to really love the New Day, and I've always liked them for the past at least 5 or 6 years, but I feel like they're developing a legacy that's hard to match these days, especially in modern times, to have a group or a stable that's that unbreakable for that long today. It's one thing to do this shit in the 80s or something, but now it's, to do it and to not screw them up too much. I mean, they did separate them, in the last draft or whatever, but even they found their way back to each other. They're still, even when they're not together, they're together. And I just don't think you're going to find too many situations like that where you're going to be able to find something that's going to have that sort of longevity. And I think those type of things are special. And when you have them, you shouldn't just on a whim that day while you're writing TV, let's just decide to break up the New Day. You better damn sure make sure you got something decent planned, and you're not just breaking them up for shock value, for buzz, for anything like that, to hotshot any sort of angle. You are doing it for the right reasons, and the absolute right reasons. Otherwise, you don't even fucking consider it. So I've reached the point with them that I don't think I need to see it. I've seen a lot of great swerves. I've seen a lot of great heel turns. I'll sacrifice this one. I'll sacrifice it to keep them together. As great as the 3 count was on The Undertaker, probably one of the greatest just moments in wrestling, with Brock hitting the 3 count, the fans losing their mind, that poor fella in the front row whose jaw drops, Paul Heyman, oh my God, as great as all of that was, I would be willing to not have experienced that if Taker's streak would have just remained intact. And I think I feel the same way about the New Day. So I don't want to see it. At this point, keep them together. I think I'd be really sad if they broke up. Lacey Von Erich is retired. I just know that Lacey Von Erich is not too knowledgeable in pro wrestling. I saw some videos of her saying a bunch of dumb shit at a convention or something. She doesn't know what's going on. I think she thinks that her, how is she, what are the Von Erich boys to her? Are they cousins of hers? I forgot. Or uncles maybe. But she says that she thought some of them were in the NWO. Like, she doesn't know what's going on. No, I did not hear about another cast member of the movie Friday passing away. I didn't catch that today. That's right, Victor Colon. You got to remember, too, back in the day, WWE attempted breaking up the Dudleys, and that's when they did the Reverend Devon thing, and he had Deacon Batista, and they tried to split Bubba up, and little things like that I just thought were silly. They didn't need to be done. At least back then, they had the excuse of, oh, it was the first draft. They were, trying to, because they split up, I think, the Acolytes, too, or the APA, too, and doing shit like that. I understand that you got to try things, and maybe they were okay with it. Yeah, let's go on a singles run or whatever. But, when you have teams or factions or anything like that that's developed any sort of a legacy or history, just be careful before you just do it willy-nilly. I always had a bad taste in my mouth, too, about WCW when they would just be unmasking cruiserweights left and right just for S&Gs. Like, what the fuck, man? Just taking Ray's mask off, Juventude's mask off, it was ridiculous. It was annoying the shit out of me. So I don't want to see. I don't want to see any knee-jerk reactions or decisions made regarding anything that has any sort of longevity. It's just too important to wrestling. WWE's bringing back '97 with the factions again. They kind of are factions everywhere back in '97. And factions are a great way to get guys over, So that's how rocks are born, So if WWE wants to get back to doing that a little bit, I can understand, I don't trust them to have any sort of long-term planning or booking with any of these factions, because look at what they're doing with the Hurt Business. They're reunited, it appears, tonight on Raw, which is the best news ever, but it's also frustrating news because they should have never fucking broken up to begin with. They shouldn't have had to reunite because they should still be together. So little things like that, I just don't trust WWE to do anything properly. So even if they start making these factions, then they'll just decide to end the factions before they even get going, which is probably what they'll do a little bit on Friday. They'll start splitting motherfuckers up in the draft for no apparent reason at all. They probably will. You liked Reverend Devon. Reverend Devon, well, Devon's got the charisma to pull off a gimmick like that. It's just, Devon's Devon, just having such a big change like that, complete and total overhaul and repackage. And on top of that, moving from singles to tag team on top of that repackage. It's tough to do, really tough to do. So I think he would have been better off doing anything else other than Reverend Devon, but he had that voice, because he testifies, remember? TNA did a better job with the Dudleys and made them feud. That's right. They did. Well, by then, Bubba was kind of establishing himself as as more of a single star and all of that. He did great work over there. Yeah, they actually did that better than WWE, I think. That was a lot of the aces and eights shit, right? Oh, I didn't. Oh, was that when they reunited with Survivor Series 02? The Dudleys reformed? We might watch that one. That's got that. I hate Elimination Chamber matches, but it does have the first one on there. And Shawn won the title. So I think in November we'll do a Survivor Series 2002 watch-along. That might be fun. But anywho, I think I'm just about finished with the notes here. I got nothing else written down for Raw tonight or in Wrestling Newsland. So I guess now all we can do is spend the week speculating on what we're going to see starting on Friday with the draft. So start sending your suggestions. There is a possibility. Actually, I should announce this now since we're all here. Now that I'm thinking about it out loud, I got a crazy week of stuff going on. There is a solid chance that Saturday's podcast is going to be bumped to Sunday. I think I'm going to be busy during the day. So we will talk about the draft, but it might not be until Sunday. Stay tuned. Really good time to subscribe. And it's a good time to follow me on Twitter because you're going to have to know about that. I'll put the announcement up on YouTube once I know, but pretty sure I have to either postpone Saturdays or maybe I can bust it out early. I'm not sure yet. Not sure what we're going to do Saturday. But the Winged Eagle podcast is going to be coming to you. It just might be Sunday instead. Right in the middle of football. That's going to suck too. Yeah, I might have to do some thinking on what we're going to do this weekend. But we will be here Wednesday night for sure for AEW Dynamite Watch Along. Looks like they got a couple of matches announced for this already. I believe it's in the hometown of Brody Lee, so they might finally be able to reconcile or bring back together the Dark Order. That might be fun. So we'll be up here on Wednesday doing that, hanging out together, drinking cold ones. Do me a favor on your way out the door. Tap, smash, hit that thumbs up button with all of your might. And I appreciate you guys being here today. I will be back on Wednesday to talk about more stuff. Anything that I missed, we'll talk about this weekend in the Winged Eagle. I will elaborate more on Seth Rollins on Broken Skull Sessions. I believe this Thursday's Dark Side of the Ring episode on Vice is on FMW. That's going to be gnarly, so I'll probably talk about that. And, of course, we've got the draft kicking off on Friday. And we got Rampage as well. So we got a lot to discuss this weekend. And the schedule might be a little bit different than normal. So like I said, subscribe. I've been better about posting stuff in the community tab on YouTube. So I'm always posting shit, making announcements over there. So you just need to subscribe so you know about all of this shit. I wish you guys a great rest of your Monday night. Thank you so much for being here. And make sure you are back with us on Wednesday to hang out and we can watch Dynamite together. Y'all take care. Have a good couple of days. Catch you Wednesday night. Peace.